have you voted the ballot yet? If you're in District 7, hold on. Hold on here. We gotta give you some information today. Our candidate interviews continue today, and in the house this morning, we have District 7 Yakima City Council member and incumbent Holly Cousens. That's right. The only incumbent that we're speaking with this election season. That's the word I wanted to use. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks
Does
for
it
coming
feel
in.
lonely being the only incumbent? Do you feel like, wait a second, I was at the front of the parade and I look behind me and the parade's gone? Is it?
It is a little bit of a weird feeling knowing that I have 4 years in and I will be the most reelected senior council member. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's truly a shakeup. So our questions for you will be obviously some of the same things that we've asked of everybody else, but you have a situation that is different. You've been there in the thick of a lot of the things that have inspired other council members to run. So your perspective will be interesting and important to get on that. But let's start from the start. For those who don't know you, let's have the Holly Cousens story.
Yeah, who are you, Holly? Tell us
who
about
are you
yourself.
anyway?
Where are you?
Why are you here?
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I'm Holly Cousens, running for District 7. I am the only incumbent running. Let's see. I moved to Yakima in 1992, went to high school here, got my college degrees. I have an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, and a Master's in Organizational Leadership, and I love Yakima, so that's why I want to run. Want to rerun, I should say. I love what we do. I love the work of the council, and I teach business technology at Yakima Valley College.
You do? All right. All right.
Could use a little of that around here.
Business technology. What is that?
We do lots of business classes. We do a lot of technology classes, too. So like Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, that's all incorporated in the program. So it's a great program. Anybody out there interested, come and talk with us.
Yeah,
to be as efficient as possible with the tools that are out there and available, right?
That's exactly right.
Boy, right on. All right. Well,
so could you help me type with more than one finger?
Yeah, you have 10. You should use all 10, not just hunt and peck with 2. And it's actually very interesting in the texting world. You should see the way they type because they're used to texting. And so we break them of that habit, teach them about their 10 fingers.
And you've been doing that for how long?
I have been at YVC since 2010.
All right. So when you first ran, this is a rerun. What made you run the first time around?
Thank you for that question, too. It was my students, actually. I love to give back, which is why I teach. I love to see when students come in where they are, and then when they come back to me and they say, I got this awesome job, I'm doing great, thank you for everything that you taught and helped me with. Same thing, we were in a class, and we were talking about the historic election, the change that was happening in 2015 with the ACLU lawsuit and the districts, and we made a list of what we wanted to see in a candidate, and we wrote it all up on the board, and my students
and there you were.
Miss Holly, don't you have all of those qualifications? And I like to lead by example, so I threw my name in the hat, and I would do it again. It's a great opportunity to help and give back to the city that you love.
Well said. Okay, so do you feel that you have unfinished business, the motivation then to continue when all around you are bailing out? What's the motivator there?
So in 2015, I ran on a platform of 3, which is still true today. Public safety, it's huge. I think that we have a lot of violent crime in Yakima that needs to be reduced. I am on the Public Safety Committee and have been for it will be 2 years. And we have a lot of work going on in there that I would like to continue. Economic development, but smart economic development. In 2015, I brought forward also the idea of a port district and to see how that would play out, started the conversations, and it's gotten a lot of steam now. And I would really like to see where that whole process goes. I think it's really important to move Yakima forward instead of backwards. I've been on the Economic Development Committee for 4 years, and I'd like to see those projects come to fruition. And then last but not least, very not least, is fiscal responsibility. We really need to get a handle on our reserve accounts, and so I think it's really important that we have people in there that can understand the budget.
Gotcha. In fact, you've asked for a budget committee. Didn't exactly overwhelm those who were there, but I thought that was a pretty good idea myself. I think that you're right, that the earlier and in the more detail, that the greater command that you have right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like from my time on council, you're sort of apprised of what's going on secondhand, but you don't really know it. I mean, your job isn't to be the finance director, but your job is to have I think, a deeper understanding than other councils in the past have had, especially in these particular times. Is that a fair characterization?
Absolutely. And, I did ask for that committee. We have committees for everything. We have greenway boards, and we have sports commissions, and we have economic development. We have committees for everything that we can sit on. We do not have a finance committee. And that really shocked me when I started, because I come from a finance background. That's what I did to get myself through school, is I worked doing books for people, taxes, and I really can understand a budget. And I think it's important that we get our hands and eyes on that budget more often than what we were getting it. We, as a council, have asked for quarterly updates now, and we are getting the quarterly updates. But again, if you have a question and you really want to dive into it, it seems like we can't get there from here. We've got a lot of stuff on the agenda, but if we had a committee, and that's what committee work does, is to flush issues out. So if we have questions or we have concerns, or we're saying, what's causing this, or whatever it may be, that's a great place to flush those issues out in a committee. So I'll keep pushing for one.
What other committees that you are on? You said public safety and economic development. What else do you do?
Well, on the council, or
yeah, on the council.
Yeah, so I was on the Greenway board for a while, and every 2 years they change. So I currently am on the Sports Commission, Public Safety and Economic Development, and I also attend other. You can, as a council member, you can audit any.
Sure, you can sit in.
You can go and sit in any of
Muzzle
the committees.
yourself. That was always tough for me.
Right. And you can also watch them. They're all recorded, and you can watch them. And I try to watch all of them so that you're informed. As a council member, that's our job. It's to be informed. And if you're not sitting on those committees, it's kind of hard when you get to a council meeting and someone wants to bring forth something, and you go, well, where did that come from? How was that fleshed out? So I think it's really important that we stay on top of that when we watch all those and understand what's going on.
True that. I was on Sports Commission, so we share that in common. And that brings me to my next question, which is, there are members of the council and members in the community that seem to be quite frustrated with the fact that we have the commitment to SOZO that we do, and that certain, the sequestered parks money kind of goes to that project for a period of time. What's your thoughts on SOZO? You work on the commission. Do you see that as an investment in the community that has a payback factor? What do you say to your fellow council persons when they start squawking about that?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in SOZO. It brings a lot of revenue. People are coming here to play sports. They're coming from all over to play sports. And he's taking a picture of
He
me.
does.
Sorry.
Catches you in action, and
He
then we
did,
post that.
yes,
we put that on our website and with this interview. So everybody who misses this will be able to go to newstalkkit.com and check it out.
Well, thank you for interrupting me with that picture. That's great. But SOZO is sorry, I have to razz you a little.
He's going to keep taking pictures. If he starts saying, smile, make love to the camera, then you can ignore that. But if he's just snapping them, just let her go.
All right. No, SOZO's I think it's a really good investment for Yakima. Like I said, people are coming from all over to watch their kids play sports here. And when they come here, they're staying in our hotels. They're eating in our restaurants. It's really good for economic development. So I'm a big proponent of SOZO.
All right. Let's get your thoughts on a couple of recent actions, and then we'll get into what your future plans are and some of that. You were one of the two that were missing the other Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday. Did you know that they knew that you weren't going to be there, or?
Absolutely. So anytime you're going to miss either a council preview meeting, which is what that was, or a council meeting, the adult thing to do, and I always do, is call and let the clerk, the mayor, and the city manager know that you will not be there. And I did let them know that I had something else going on. I was not going to be able to attend. So I was a little shocked at the action that was taken.
I wrote about it, and I thought it was very disrespectful to you and the people that you represent, and that a 3-2 decision could easily have changed with 2 more people there. And I thought if truly we're in an emergency, that still wasn't the right way to handle it for full representation of our city. I'm not sure. I don't want to put you in a position to necessarily have to criticize your fellow council members, but feel free if you want to. If you weren't extended the opportunity to call in or checked with on all of this stuff, then I feel even worse about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I will never speak ill of my seatmates. It's just not who I am as a person. I will tell you, though, that when you suspend the rules to make a vote at a council preview meeting, it's not just not fair to the council members that aren't there, but it's not fair to the public and and all the voices that those council members represent. And I don't feel that the public even knew that that was going on, so they couldn't come down and have a voice in that decision. And I think that's really where we went wrong.
Yeah, I would have been there too. I just did not know. All right, so let's talk some of the decisions. First of all, the committee. You knew that a committee was working on this, right? That's was, in
correct.
fact, you nominated, I think,
Brad Hill
to be on that group. And then the person sitting next to you had a rather loud and semi-profane, I suppose, depending on how you define it, reaction. Did you ever talk to her about what was so upsetting to her in the makeup? I get the sense that that Dr. Funk, this is just me thinking out loud, thinks that you've got two people who are leaving that aren't going to have to be there to deal with whatever comes next, and one person who has probably been her most direct critic now getting to select the city's future. And that I'm going to be here, you're all not, and I don't think like you, and now you're putting this on us? Does that feel right?
Again, I think it's important that we put stuff in a committee so we can hash things out. And going back to that motion, I was actually going to make the motion, and a council member sitting next to me actually made the motion without some of the verbiage that I had, and I had it sitting in front of me, so I just have to guess that that's kind of where that stemmed from. And the verbiage I was going to make was to create a committee that consisted of the mayor, the assistant mayor, and Councilmember Hill to discuss city manager, assistant city manager, and the possibility of an elected mayor. I think that those conversations need to happen. So going back to what you had just asked me about Dr. Funk, she's got a great voice, but again, I think that if you don't agree with her, then she can be really loud on council, and that's her right to do that, but I did speak with her after, I've spoken with her about these issues before, and she has a thought that she doesn't like that the mayor and the assistant mayor are constantly sitting on committees. And I don't quite understand where she comes from with that, because I don't believe it's the mayor and the assistant mayor sitting on a lot of committees together. I don't see that, but that's her opinion on it.
And they are just council members, in fact.
correct.
So, all right, but that brings up the sanction of Dr. Funk. Did you support that in concept?
A little history on where all that came from. There was talk on the council of how can we kind of, lack of a better word, police ourselves, make
Right.
sure that we are doing what we need to be doing, being effective as a body, and that we're coming across professionally and respectful to everybody. And if we're not, and we're stepping outside those grounds, what recourse do we have? So again, it went to committee. It went to the partnership committee to create a document, sort of an code of ethics document, and all of us signed it, including Dr. Funk. And there's steps in there. So I do
Graduated kind of.
That's correct, and I do support the action. The length of time, however, kind of shocked me. She's in a 2-year elected position, so when you sanction someone for 6 months, it's kind of, I think the time was a little off on that, the timing of the punishment. But I believe there was. I guess I should say this. I should say I don't believe her voice is stifled because she has a voice at council. She can continue to have a voice at council. When you do committee work, you're hashing out issues and it comes to the full council. The full council gets to vote on those.
Sure.
And again, you can watch those. They're all recorded. So she should be watching those and staying up on those, which I believe she is, because that's the kind of person she is. And she can voice her opinion at the full council. So
Technically, it's symbolic then, as much as anything, as far as truly not having a say in what the committee has finally accomplished, because she gets to vote on it at council.
that's correct.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about that. So yeah, I would, if I had to vote again, I would still vote to have some sort of an action taken. However, I don't know about the length of time.
Gotcha. All right. District 7 incumbent Councilwoman Holly Cousens here on Newstalk 1280 KIT. Hopefully you got the extra half hour to go top of the hour, right?
Yeah, I do,
She
yes.
plans to stay. We got a lot more to talk about. We want to get some of her plans for the future. There is the concept of the ice flights. She's on record with that. So we'll talk to her a little bit about that and a whole lot more. Lance has your local news. Newstalk 1280 KIT, the morning news continues. Dave Ettl, Lance Tormey, Jacksonian, and you, 972-5481.
That's right, Dave. 7:45. Find us at newstalkkit.com if you're wondering about the weather or whatever else you can use, information you can use. And our other candidate interviews are right there. So if you're filling out the ballot, you want some more information, go right there to newstalkkit.com. And we will have this interview up there by about noon today as well. And this interview is our Yakima City Council member and District 7 incumbent, Holly Cousens. Good morning, Holly. Thanks for sticking around with us.
Good morning.
Hey, Holly, you've been doing some, I take it like everyone does, doorbelling and knocking on the doors. What are they saying? What are you hearing?
Yeah, thanks. I have been. It's all about voter contact when you are running for election. It's, got to get out there and talk to people. And they are very concerned about violent crime in Yakima, concerned about homelessness. It's an array of things, but those are the ones that I hear the most of is, crime in Yakima, also jobs. What are we doing for economic development? So the main topics.
What do you believe those are the biggest challenges that Yakima faces? I mean, do we still have a, big gang crime problem that we need to tackle?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I do believe we have a lot of violent crime in Yakima, and it does need to be reduced. We do have a new chief of police, and his main goal is to reduce that violent crime. I am on the public safety committee, too, and we're doing everything we can to try to help support our police department in their efforts to reduce crime in Yakima.
Your plans for the future, and I know Dave wants to get into this as well, but your plans, your immediate plans for the future, what's kind of on the top of your priority list for the council?
So I have three things. One, smart economic development, and included in that is Port District. Public safety, again, reducing violent crime, doing what we can as a council to help support our police chief and our officers in their endeavors to do that. And then fiscal responsibility, putting money back into our reserve account.
In order to do that, you got to have money, right, to put in. There was a report earlier that maybe our sales tax projections hadn't come to fruition. You guys, I know you're going to try to get an update on that, where things were. What's the status of money coming in at this point?
Well, again, and this is why I really have been pushing to try to get a finance committee so that we can get a better handle on the overall picture. Because when we spot things like that, we look at just different little issues. Not that that's a little issue, but when we look at individual issues, we're not always seeing the big picture.
True.
So it's really important as council members that we understand the full budget, how it all works, and we see it as a full picture. Because sales tax is obviously a big portion of that, but there's other things that come in and play into that too, and I think we need to actually really look and dive into it.
Did you get an update at all on the sales tax from the finance guy? He was going to look into the prospects
he's
of whether.
At the next council meeting,
okay.
He will be bringing that.
It has come up with two of the folks that are coming back in an exchange at a recent council meeting between Dr. Funk and Brad Hill about levy-led lift, going beyond the 1% property tax cap. We also heard from the city finance director about the 32 cents that's hanging out there that we could still pursue, which would be a little over $2 million. Do you have any sense for the future of those things? Will we try to raise the tax to that limit and then later on consider going beyond the levy lid, which would require a vote of the public, would it not?
It would require a vote of the public, yes. And I haven't been a proponent of the levy lid lift. It hasn't been something that I don't think it's going to solve our problems. And so I'm really interested to see that conversation and, the facts that come out of that conversation and then what the people have to say about it.
All right. The ice flights was sort of an emotional deal the other day. A chance quote for Yakima's council to stand up and be counted on behalf of the community. I just think it's wrong to position things like that, to put it that way, to frame it that way. You voted to continue ice flights. You want to give us a little bit of your background and thought on that?
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. When it comes to the ice flights, I was really appalled by some of the comments that came out. I'll say that it's not who stands with the Latinx community and who doesn't. I didn't understand that comment, or our immigrants. I don't understand that, and I don't agree with those comments. I voted to continue the ice flights Not because I don't care about people, which I know that's been floating around too, but because it's cyclical. Are we making a difference by saying they can't land here? And the answer to that is no. If they don't land here, they're going to land somewhere else, the same amount of people, and they're going to bus them to where they bus them. And I think it's a federal airport. I mean, we're getting FAA funds. Our grants were $19 million at the minimum is what we would lose if we say, no, they can't land here. And then our airport needs work. It needs updates. And if we continue to do these things, are we going to get there from here? We need to keep moving Yakima forward. And I'm not saying that that's going to at the cost of a person. I've heard that too. I mean, do you put money before people? And that's not what it is for me. Again, it's cyclical. I think as a city council member, our job is to set policy. And I said this at the council meeting, and I know some people maybe were confused with my comment. We aren't advocates at that point. We're policymakers, and I think there's a difference. And I think we can step out of the policymaking body and become an advocate and write to people like our senators and our federal representatives and say, we're not okay with this. We don't like this, and we want to take a stand on it. We become an advocate at that point. And we can do that, and I'm a proponent to do that, to change things on a federal level, but the city itself is not in a position to change that. Again, it's cyclical, and it would only shoot us in the foot if we had voted to discontinue them.
Well, do you feel like you're the kind of the odd man out here on that? I mean, do you feel some friction with other council members because that's your position?
I don't know that I feel friction as a council member. I mean, everybody's passionate, right? You wouldn't be on council if you weren't passionate about Yakima. You would never run for that position if you weren't. And we all love Yakima. We all have a different vision for Yakima. So coming together and trying to understand where people are coming from is really important. And I think that that's been kind of a challenge for this council and the one in 15, because we've had an election since then, is respecting each other's opinion and trying to understand where you come from. So I really think that's been a big challenge, because again, we're all so passionate about so many issues that in that passion, I think, can come out some negative comments.
Does that passion stay in City Hall? I mean, and then you kind of leave all that passion and all the things that you're thinking about, all the things you're talking about, is that left in City Hall? And you guys are friends outside of City Hall, or is there friction outside of City Hall even?
Well, for me, I didn't run for city council to be friends with 6 other people, right? To make 6 other new friends. I ran for city council because I love Yakima and I want to see Yakima move forward. And but to answer your question, I think we've built at least I have built respect for my seatmates. And so when they have a difference of opinion of mine, I'm going to respect that. I'm going to listen to them and try to understand where they come from. And I think that we see a lot of people, instead of doing that, thinking, just overall society, not just on council, right? When you have a difference of opinion, you think, what am I going to say next, instead of actually really listening and paying attention to what the person is saying to try to understand where they're coming from. So for me, after a vote that's pretty heated, I always try to, if I have to bridge something there, do that, reach out to a council member and say, hey, I know we're on different sides of this, but I still respect you as my seatmate and know that where your heart is to move Yakima forward.
Is it time to think about a strong mayor?
I am a proponent of an elected mayor. I think that we've really seen some drastic changes since Dave was on council from when I'm on council, right? We've seen a lot of changes within, I don't know if it's competition. You could say there's some competition within the council on different things, because if we're looking at project based and we say, okay, we have X amount of dollars to fix sidewalks,
the system
streets.
engenders competition. It can't help but.
Yeah.
Well, so you have to really fight to get your district's needs in there, right? Because you only have X amount of dollars to do that. So then, of course, you're advocating and trying to really get the projects that need work in your district. So there's that competition there. And I think that overall, as a council member, I really try to look at, okay, how is this going to better all of Yakima? But of course, you have to look at your district. You're the voice for your district. So you have to really weigh that. And sometimes they can come in conflict, right? So having an elected mayor would really help, I think, bridge that, someone that is there full time to look out for Yakima as a whole.
We have a interesting situation brewing with well, first of all, I haven't had a chance to comment on this. I've always been a fan of Cynthia Martinez. I think that she does a great job and always seems to be totally prepared, and I've always appreciated her work. So to think that she's going to kind of babysit things for a period of time with a goal of, as she said in the paper today, to make sure that all the different divisions of the city are supported and have their help so the work can continue. I think that that's a good call. That wasn't the call coming out of the committee, and you were left out of that conversation. But here we have a situation where, 20 days to go, and your city manager is, cleaning out his desk and trying to Skype with assistant city manager. She's been gone since January, so why don't we replace our assistant city manager before now? Now it becomes an emergency situation, so we can get that person in, and it takes a city manager to hire her. We'll get a range writer or some kind of interim city manager, and as we look for a city manager, but all of that goes down with the prospect of a change in government where both the city manager and assistant city manager could be out of a job. I mean, we have put ourselves in a funky situation. How do you feel about that?
You're right. It is kind of a funky situation.
Thank you.
Yes, use your words.
Sure.
I'm a little bit saddened that they suspended the rules and made that vote, because there's more conversation to be had. When it comes to the assistant city manager, you are correct that the city manager hires the assistant city manager, and I would have liked to have seen that process move more quickly. However, it wasn't that we didn't try. So there were candidates that came through, and then there was I think there was top 3, and then they ended up not panning out for whatever reason. So we're in the second rounds of looking for that. So timing is absolutely terrible. It just is.
But you feel that a legitimate effort has been underway for a period of time.
I do. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
fair enough.
And as far as the city manager, again, I'm not happy about how things turned out at the special meeting. And I feel like those agenda preview meetings, they were set up so that council could get information about the upcoming agendas all together. And so, because they're fluid, sometimes they're really fluid, right? So sometimes you can meet with one council member on a Monday, but what you tell somebody on a Friday is different because the situation has changed.
Sure, information comes in different. Yeah.
Right. So we decided as a council to have preview meetings where everybody is all together to get all that information. But what it's sort of morphed into is another council meeting.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I don't think that's fair to the public, and I don't think it's fair to the council members, because when you have a council meeting, at least for me, I put a lot of time and effort into researching what is on the agenda, talking. If it's something that, I'm not 100% sure how my constituents would vote, I go out and talk to people. I try to get as many voices and as much information as I can to make an educated decision on how I'm going to vote. So when you suspend something and you just throw it in there, I think we take away from that, and that's not fair to anybody.
Well, point being that you're going to have a tough time getting quality candidates until a decision about a strong mayor is decided, and so I guess the sooner the better on that. We're going to run out of time here without giving you your chance to give your elevator speech. So with about 2 minutes to go, you and David, Lance, and Jack are trapped in an elevator along with all of Yakima. It's a really big elevator. Here's your chance to tell us why we need to send Holly Cousens back to City Council.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have been on council for 4 years. I know how it works. I know how. For those that don't know, it's the public that run the council that then manages the city manager, and then the city manager helps with all of the departments. And that's sort of the hierarchy of it. I believe in Yakima. I love Yakima, and I want to see it continue to move forward. I believe I have not only the experience, but the education to help move us in the direction we need to go.
Holly Cousens, thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Good luck to you. Should you get past this round and head to the general, we'll have you back. We'll chat some more. And then if you get on council, we'd love to have you back and chat some more.
Anytime. I look forward to it.
Holly Cousens, thank you very much.